The Old Testament is a collection of ancient writings sacred to Jews and Christians. It begins with creation and follows the history of Israel. The texts include law, history, prophecy, and wisdom literature. Written over centuries, they offer diverse perspectives. These stories speak of covenants, heroes, and human emotions. They explore themes of justice, mercy, and redemption. The Old Testament is a library of varied treasures. It introduces monotheism and explores the struggles of individuals and nations. These stories have shaped cultures and continue to inspire. Understanding the Old Testament requires appreciating its complexity. It is not a single book, but a collection of diverse texts. The narratives show the search for meaning and community. The Old Testament offers insights into timeless human experiences. It invites readers to engage with its narratives. It encourages connections to personal lives. The Old Testament remains a source of wisdom and inspiration. Its influence is felt in art, literature, and law globally. For those approaching these texts, context is crucial. The world of the Old Testament was different from ours, yet the human experiences it describes are universal. The search for meaning and community is timeless. The Old Testament offers profound insights into life. It invites readers to engage with its narratives. It remains a source of wisdom and inspiration for millions. The Book of Chronicles, comprising 1 and 2 Chronicles, retells Israel's history with a unique perspective. Likely written after the Babylonian exile, it aimed to give hope and remind the people of their identity. Chronicles emphasizes the temple in Jerusalem and the Davidic dynasty. The chronicler encouraged the exiles to rebuild the temple and be faithful to God's laws. Genealogies in 1 Chronicles show continuity and connect the present generation to their sacred past. The chronicler used various sources, reshaping them to convey his message. His goal was theological, teaching readers about God and faithful living. Chronicles is a work of interpretation, not just a record of events. It presents an idealized vision of Israel's past to guide the future. The chronicler believed faithfulness to God would lead to blessing. He showed examples of this from history and the consequences of disobedience. Chronicles provides a moral framework urging renewed commitment to God. It is a carefully crafted narrative seeking to inspire and instruct. Chronicles is not a literal account, but a narrative with purpose. It presents an idealized vision of Israel's past. This vision was meant to guide the future. The chronicler believed faithfulness to God would lead to blessing. He showed examples of this from history. He also showed the consequences of disobedience. This provided a clear moral framework for his audience. It urged them toward a renewed commitment to their covenant with God. Chronicles is a narrative with purpose. It seeks to inspire and instruct. 1 Chronicles opens with genealogies tracing lineages from Adam. These lists establish identity and connect the post-exilic community to their ancestors. The first 9 chapters are genealogies, mapping Israel's families and tribes. This sets the stage for the lineage of King David, a central figure in Chronicles. The narrative then shifts to David's reign and his preparations for building the temple. 1 Chronicles aims to provide continuity, showing God's plan through generations. It seeks to unify Israel by reminding them of their shared ancestry. It legitimizes the temple and its priesthood, tracing priestly lines. The Davidic covenant, promising David's descendants would rule, is emphasized. This message of hope was vital for a community without a king. Understanding this purpose helps us read 1 Chronicles effectively. The genealogies are foundational, like roots of a great tree. This tree is the nation of Israel, with deep and strong roots. The chronicler reminds readers of their heritage. He calls them to live up to their ancestors' legacy. The book is a call to renewal. It invites rebuilding a community founded on faith and shared history. The genealogies are not just filler, they are foundational. They are like the roots of a great tree. This tree is the nation of Israel. The chronicler is showing how deep and strong these roots are. He's reminding his readers of their heritage. He's calling them to live up to the legacy of their faithful ancestors. The book is a call to renewal. 1 Chronicles begins with a vast genealogy from Adam. It connects the audience to the dawn of humanity. The list focuses on Noah's descendants, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These sons are progenitors of all nations after the flood. The chronicler acknowledges the wider family of humankind. This genealogy covers a vast sweep of time with brevity. Each name represents a generation and a link in a long chain. The purpose is to establish lines of descent, not individual stories. Starting with Adam places Israel's story in a larger context. Israel is part of a bigger narrative, not isolated. The chronicler wants readers to see their history connected to all peoples. This perspective was important for the post-exilic community. They were a small group finding their place in a world of empires. The genealogy affirmed their ancient roots and connection to creation. Names like Adam, Seth, Enoch, and Noah carry weight and meaning. By invoking these figures, the chronicler taps into shared memory and tradition. He is not just listing names, but reminding the audience of foundational stories. These stories shaped their understanding of God and the world. Chronicles traces the nations from Noah's sons, Japheth and Ham. Japheth's descendants include Gomer and Javan, linked to ancient peoples. Ham's sons, like Cush and Mizraim, connect to regions like Egypt. Canaan, among Ham's descendants, is significant as Israel's promised land. The genealogy provides context for Israel's interactions with these nations. It shows all nations tracing back to Noah, reinforcing shared ancestry. For the chronicler's audience, it defined their identity in relation to others. They saw how surrounding nations fit into this genealogical map. It ordered their world and highlighted Israel's distinct lineage. The focus on Canaanites acknowledges their place in the genealogical framework. The later narrative of conquest shows Israel displacing them. This genealogical information provides context for those later events. It establishes the origins of the peoples Israel would interact with. Chronicles moves to Shem's descendants, tracing Israel's ancestry. Shem's line leads to Abraham, the father of the Israelite nation. The genealogy from Arphaxad to Abraham is carefully recorded. This highlights the importance of Abraham's lineage. The chronicler narrows focus from universal to particular, mirroring Genesis. It emphasizes God's progressive revelation and election. While all nations have their place, God chose a specific family. This family was chosen for his purposes in the world. The genealogies reaffirm the post-exilic community's identity as Abraham's descendants. They remind them of God's promises, including land and a special relationship. In uncertain times, this connection was a source of hope. It anchored them to a sacred past and promised future. The genealogies are not just about Israel, but about its relation to others. They show how Israel fits into the larger narrative of God's work. Chronicles expands to Abraham's family, listing Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac is the son of promise, while Ishmael's descendants are acknowledged. The chronicler includes Abraham's sons through Keturah, showing a broader family. This shows Abraham as the father of many nations, as promised by God. The focus shifts to Isaac's sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau's descendants and Edomite kings are detailed. This acknowledges the close, though fraught, relationship between Israel and Edom. The genealogies highlight God's faithfulness in fulfilling his word. For the audience, it served as a point of comparison. Edom had kings before Israel, setting the stage for Israel's desire for a king. The genealogies are not just about Israel, but about its relation to others. They show how Israel fits into the larger narrative of God's work. The genealogies are not just about Israel, but about its relation to others. They show how Israel fits into the larger narrative of God's work. The genealogies in Chronicles are crucial for establishing identity. They connect the post-exilic community to their past and affirm their status as God's chosen people. In a world where lineage defined social standing, knowing one's ancestry was vital. The genealogies provided continuity and belonging, linking them to promises made to their forefathers. After the exile, the people of Judah faced an identity crisis. The genealogies helped define who belonged to the restored community. They were particularly important for priestly families whose roles depended on lineage. The chronicler reweaves the fabric of Israelite society. The genealogies illustrate a theological transition from universal to particular. They show God's plan of election unfolding, choosing a specific people for a special purpose. The genealogies are the framework for the story of salvation history. Chapter 1 of Chronicles is not just names, but a foundation for the rest of the book. It legitimizes David's reign and shows it as part of God's divine plan. The chapter ends with Edomite kings, hinting at Israel's need for a rightful king. From these lists, the narrative will move to Israel's golden age under David. The genealogies are not just about Israel, but about its relation to others. They show how Israel fits into the larger narrative of God's work. The genealogies are not just about Israel, but about its relation to others too.